Yo. What up? What's happening? It's another episode of Crypto Squid Games. Man, I got one for you. But we're going to start this thing off right, man. Prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you for another day. Blessed mercy, your grace, and all you do for us. Continue to protect us, hold us, mold us. Guide us to that abundance that we, all searching and seeking for. We down at the bottom. We just pray to be on top. Second, I like to say this is not a financial advice channel. I don't condone nobody taking up for nobody. Don't put your seed phrase and none of that stuff in the comments. I had some spam comments I had to keep deleting because folks keep putting their seed phrase in the comments. We don't rock like that, so don't do that. You know what I mean? I'm not no financial advisor, and this is not financial advice on this channel. So go on here with that though. Man, I got a good one for you. So we can go ahead and get into this right here. Crypto Squid Game.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion. This is financial freedom. You have been dreaming of it ever since you started your working career almost 10 years ago now. One day, your friend introduces you to an interesting website from a company called Terraform Labs. It's low-risk investment where you can earn 20% a year on your deposits. If you just put in $500 from every paycheck, you'll make some decent returns. But you're skeptical and you dismiss it. But later, when you think about the money that's left sitting in your savings account getting eaten away by inflation, you think to yourself, maybe this is worth a shot. The website states that it's using a technology called stablecoins. You don't really know what that is, but your friend says it's pretty much risk-free. But little did you know that in just 2 years, you would lose half your savings. This is a story that's painfully familiar to millions of others around the world. In total, $45 billion worth of everyday people's money was lost in less than a week. Around the internet, people are calling this the 2008 crisis of crypto. And now, you're right in the middle of it. How could this have happened to you? This is a horror story that many are living right now.
You are watching Cold Fusion TV.
This is Do Kwon. He's the one in charge of the company that caused your financial demise. Born in South Korea in 1991, Do Kwon was a bright kid and went on to study computer science at Stanford, graduating in 2015. He briefly worked for Apple and Microsoft, reportedly only for a few months each. He would return back to South Korea in 2015. It would seem that working for big tech wasn't enough for Kwon. He wanted to be big tech itself, but in the crypto space. Not long after this, he would hear of a stablecoin project called Basis. He looked into the idea of stablecoins and saw them as the next big thing in finance. The idea is that these tokens would maintain a $1 value. This is called a peg. Essentially, the tokens would act like a digital dollar. Stablecoins are for people that still want to enjoy the benefit of crypto, but without all the wild swings in price. An interest rate system also makes sure that depositors get rewarded for keeping their money in the system. To get his idea off the ground, it wasn't going to be easy for Kwon. He needed a lot of funding to get started. Stablecoin tokens are usually backed by securities like treasuries and cash reserves, or with some combination of other crypto. People really want to have confidence in knowing that a stablecoin is worth what it says it is. Instead of a traditional backing with something like cash, Terra used an experimental algorithm to help back the system, but more on that shortly. After a failed startup, in January of 2018, Do Kwon and co-founder Daniel Sim came up with the idea for Terraform Labs. Eventually, Terra managed to get off the ground with the support of 15 e-commerce companies in Asia. Here is Do Kwon talking about his ties with the e-commerce platform Chai in 2019.
But in the back end is where the real magic starts to happen. And I contend that Terra solves two of the biggest roadblocks to the adoption of digital payments in Asia and the rest of the world. Up to today, we've had 430,000 shoppers over the Chai Payment Gateway, most of them coming in the last month. And we've processed nearly 2 million transactions up to date. In terms of daily active users, Terra and Chai has already surpassed some of the most popular tokens.
In 2019, Kwon was named in Asia's Forbes 30 Under 30. But all was not as it seemed on the surface. According to some staff that I talked to within Terra Labs, Do Kwon was narcissistic but charismatic. He would micromanage and sometimes verbally abuse Terra Labs staff. Within 1 to 2 years, virtually all the core people left, most with legal disputes. As this happened, Terra Labs increasingly became a one-man show, with Do Kwon making all the decisions. Kwon's decisions would eventually lead to the collapse and a loss of billions. Time and time again, low-risk, so-called algorithmic stablecoins have been tried with catastrophic results. Take Mark Cuban for example. He lost money on the now-dead Titan Iron stablecoin. So Do Kwon had a lot of work to do to get people trusting and using Terra. Critics of stablecoins have called them, quote, modern-day pyramid schemes, with people like Senator Elizabeth Warren calling for regulation. This next section may seem a little bit in the weeds, but bear with me because it's integral to understanding what later went wrong. The main focus of the Terra Labs blockchain was their token, Terra USD, or UST, which would stay stable at $1 worth of value. The Terra system used 2 tokens to function. UST was to remain stable, while the other token, called Luna, was meant to absorb volatility. One can buy UST on market exchanges or through exchanging Luna within the system. At all costs, the system tries to keep everything in equilibrium. There were also financial incentives for people to trade and swap Luna and UST in whichever direction helps the system stay in equilibrium. An algorithm is in charge of managing all of this and making sure that it all works. There's a major problem though. The system is designed to do this no matter what happens to UST's market price on other exchanges. If the peg begins to slip, risk begins to pile up. People may jump out of the UST token into other stablecoins, which causes the Luna token to fall. The algorithm then prints more Luna in order to keep the peg, so the price drops even more. This is okay for small dips, but if the selling pressure is too much, then there can be a feedback loop of people selling and the system printing ever more Luna to try and keep the balance. This is called a death spiral. But this wasn't all. There was yet another issue with the system. It had grown too fast. Investors who deposited UST into the Terra system were receiving roughly 20% yield. This high return was what attracted many people to the service in the first place, and Terra grew rapidly because of it. But perhaps too rapidly. Instead of the market deciding interest rates, Do Kwon wanted this rate fixed. To achieve this, it was partly subsidized by the company. However, as demand grew, more and more money needed to be paid out. Around $7 million was paid out in interest every day. Do Kwon also made a fatal mistake of letting people take out their deposits at any time. Perhaps what he didn't foresee is that the rapid growth meant that the system was extra vulnerable to mass withdrawals all at once. Unknowingly, he had just caused both major elements that would contribute to the disaster: the rapid and massive growth, thanks to the attractive fixed 20% return, and the risk of mass withdrawals. Many skeptics criticized Terra, stating that it was unsustainable. But devout supporters, or lunatics as they called themselves, would dismiss the criticism.
Financial security, financial freedom, doing it in a safe way.
Do Kwon was now the leader of a devout group. He had made people a lot of money, and it seemed like his reinvention of finance was on its way to changing the world. It was a safe crypto bank with a high interest rate and large adoption. In 2021, as the wider crypto market began to turn south, the yields in other stablecoins and tokens began to fall. But Do Kwon's fixed 20% yield on UST became increasingly attractive and more people piled in. By April of 2022, the Luna coin was trading at over $100 a token, and the whole system was valued at $45 billion. The Terra Luna system was being used in hundreds of decentralized apps and millions of payments around the world. With Terra, it finally looked like decentralized finance had finally gone mainstream. It should be noted that although the Terra system was marketed as decentralized and coin holders did have voting rights, in reality it was the opposite. According to insiders, Do Kwon was a dictator and made all the final decisions and influenced the direction of the company. Effectively, it couldn't be more centralized. To fortify confidence in the system, Terra Labs built up resistance to unexpected shocks. They dedicated a reserve of $450 million and $1 billion worth of Bitcoin to defending the peg. At this point, Terra had the fourth largest market cap in the whole of crypto. They looked unstoppable. As the use of Terra expanded and institutional investment arrived, Kwon got more cocky.
I wonder how many of these companies you think are entering the space just because it's hot and there's a lot of funding versus the ones that will still be here, like 2 to 5 years later.
95% are going to die.
Yeah.
95% are going to die. Yeah. Yeah, there's also entertainment in watching companies die too.
There's entertainment. Oh man, that's so evil. At least you get to learn from it, right?
On Twitter, he was also showing his confidence. The Twitter user.
You know what's amazing to me is that a lot of these people who open these different little exchanges and stuff like FTX and all these folk, man, all them folk be scamming like a motherfucker. They have their own little underlying thing going on. You know what I mean?
User Algod bet $1 million that in 1 year from now, Terra Luna would essentially collapse. The stakes got raised to $10 million and put on the blockchain for everyone to see. But behind the scenes, things were already going awry. According to documents filed by Kwon at the Supreme Court of South Korea's Registry Office, Kwon filed to dissolve the Korean company's entity on the 30th of April 2022 and was granted approval on the 4th of May 2022, just days before the crash. For those that had put their hard-earned money into the system, this should have been a concern, but they either weren't paying attention or the pull of financial freedom and peace of mind was too strong. This event should have been the final red flag. Beginning on the 9th of May 2022, people began to notice something strange. The $1 peg promised by Luna on their UST token began to come undone. Headlines were made when UST began to break from its secure peg of $1. The disaster began to kick off with a series of major withdrawals from the interest-yielding UST system. According to CoinDesk, the amount was around $4 billion. A single wallet also dumped $84 million worth of UST on the Ethereum blockchain and $108 million on the Binance crypto exchange. These led calls from within the community that the DPEG was a coordinated attack. But people couldn't worry about that now, as things went from bad to worse. UST starts trading at 90 cents, then 85 cents. The peg was really failing. Over the coming hours, panic sets in, and some users pull their money out. Conspiracy theories begin to take root online. What exactly is happening here? Then even more users try to pull out their funds. This time, all at once. The network becomes congested. The Luna Foundation Guard, an organization that's supposed to support the Terra ecosystem, announces a $1.5 billion emergency loan to restore the peg to the US.
You imagine everybody pulling their money out the bank. The banks will do the same thing. Like I say, no flack at the banks or nothing, but man, ain't got enough money in the bank if everybody just one of them with the snatching out all their money. I should have crashed like other.
But it doesn't work. UST falls to 50 cents, then 20 cents, a far cry from its stable $1 promise. Luna is also crashing. It's $70, then $20, then $10. The hyperinflation of Luna was happening right before everyone's eyes. Luna collapsed further to 5 cents. Now, virtually zero. Unbelievable. UST now sits at a measly 10 cents. The collapse wiped out almost $45 billion of market capitalization. Luna went down from an all-time high of $119 to virtually zero. The US government gets involved. Immediately after the crash, Treasury Secretary Yellen points to the UST disaster and demands legislation by the end of the year. On the 13th of May, Terraform Labs halts the Terra blockchain. The company's attempts to stabilize the system also fail. Kwon takes to Twitter saying he's heartbroken by the events. Nobody has ever seen anything like this before. A top 5 crypto project going to zero so quickly. It was a true Lehman Brothers moment for the crypto community.
And this is why folk don't trust crypto. I mean, for real. Outside of folks stealing it and taking it and all that there. Man, all these big companies who, man, come on, going from 100 and something to nothing, you lose everything, and you can't do nothing about it. Man, make it make sense, man. Why would you put something, man? Why would you put your money? You might as well go play the lottery. At least I can throw my money at the wall that way. I might hit, I might don't, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But come on, man.
So who did it? According to some insiders I've talked to, those within Terra Labs believe that this was a coordinated large-scale attack which is viewable on the blockchain. From on-chain data, 1 or 2 actors bought a massive amount of UST with Bitcoin and then dumped that UST on the market. These actors did so even at a loss just to bring the system down. Lucas Altumaro, head of research at Into the Block, told Fortune, quote, "The large withdrawals appeared to be timed precisely at the moment when Luna was most vulnerable," end quote. He checked the data himself and said that it all lines up, and, quote, "It is certainly suspicious. I think we are beyond the point that this idea of an attack is just speculation." Unfortunately for those involved, the pieces were in place and the dominoes were set up to fall. Once the price began to drop, people panic sold and the algorithm tried to print more Luna, reducing the price even further in a runaway death spiral. Many suspect that the perpetrator was a large hedge fund, but solid evidence is yet to be found. This may change as the investigation continues. There may be some factors that we don't know about that may come to light.
Did the market collude to make this crash happen?
This appears to be a hedge fund. We don't know, well, people are naming the hedge fund, but I won't. The trade was instigated by one person, and then we don't know if the momentum was created by collusion. Conspiracy theories would say yes.
And that's another thing too, when you coming from the bottom and you make it to the top, you know, you got a lot of big folks at the top. If they don't want you to win, they gonna find a way to make you fail. So you gotta think about it like that too. It's a double-edged sword. Cause you done came up, whatever project you done created, you got people that's already been sitting at the top, just laying and waiting on you, looking at you like, yeah, I'm gonna put a bunch of money into this. Then I'm gonna pull it all out at one time, cause it to crash. It's a lot of different ways, just like Squid Games. It's a lot of different ways you can speculate. They give you the illusion to think you're gonna win. Then they take you out.
Because it's a massive trade. There was over $1 billion in capital, and then the market is saying that then they ended up going short UST, so that they took a massive risk to achieve what they did. I mean, people are saying they made $950 million.
When all was said and done, $1 million invested in Terra just a week before the crash is now worth a measly $3. Lives were ruined and dreams crushed. All over the internet, there were devastating stories of Luna holders. YouTuber KSI lost $2.8 million. Another YouTuber, Carl Runefelt, lost $1.4 million. But everyday people were also harmed in this. Reddit became populated with tragic stories. One user writes, "I lost over $450,000 US. I cannot pay the bank. I will lose my home soon. I'll become homeless. Suicide is the only way out for me." It is truly sad to consider those who have been affected. Due to the magnitude of the disaster, Do Kwon has been likened by journalists to Elizabeth Holmes of Theranos, especially in his native country of South Korea. But in a twist, things may be a bit more nuanced. It is true that the success got to Do Kwon's head. He thought he was better than everyone else and took decisions solo. But according to insiders, his decisions were risky and ultimately hurt people, but he didn't want to defraud anyone. He loved control and power, but he had a reputation to keep, and cheating people would destroy that. Ryan Selkis, founder and CEO of Mesorai, states, quote, "What happened to Terra wasn't fraud. It was overconfidence in the investors of last resort who had already backed the project, and reckless growth at a time when the market was slowing down," end quote.
I passed the top.
Yeah, I'm gonna just leave it right there. You know what I mean? Man, this thing here wild, man, and these crypto Squid Games, like the Hunger Games, you know what I mean? The folk at the top, man, and then when you know you putting your money into risky investments, man, you either gonna win or you gonna lose, but you taking a gamble. Like I say, you might as well play the lottery. You know what I mean? This ain't no financial advice or nothing. Like I said, I don't rock like that, but man, you take your chances with that type stuff there. Man, I'm gonna go ahead and let y'all get out of here, man. Y'all be blessed. Peace.